coming. If you don't know me personally, we all do. I can talk to a lot of you somewhere, but I'm with you, and that's okay. And that's you, and that's Elisa. Let me introduce you to each other. Thank you for coming here early this morning, and say hi to people watching us on YouTube live. Say hi. So the ones who couldn't make it today can also follow us somehow, right? The title is Too Much Too Soon, Using Authentic Materials Before Advanced Levels. Before we start looking at the things, let me just show you what we're going to really talk about, right? First, we're going to divide it into three sections: getting started, getting info, and getting down to it. So first, we're going to try to understand what authentic material is and try to speak in the same language so we know that we're referring to the same thing when we talk about authentic material. Then I'm going to share with you some research, not research that I carried out, but some research that was carried out in North Korea, right? The other side of the world, but still relevant to students, right? And then we're going to look at some practical tips, as well as some examples of authentic materials that can be used with students before advanced levels. So, what do you understand by advanced levels? Yeah. And do you feel that it's easy to use authentic materials with students at advanced levels? Yes. Yeah. And what are your expectations? Because we talked about before advanced levels. Are you expecting me to help you use authentic materials with learners going towards A1? Or are you here for the intermediate one?
Yeah, if you adapt well, I think you can use it pretty much at every level, right? But I think if we think like what's going to be easier, we think, well, they need to have a little bit of background, language background in order to be able to handle authentic materials. So yeah, maybe at least when I think about it, I think, well, basic authentic materials.
And I think the big challenge comes for the lower levels.
Yes.
Right? The lower levels being very challenging. Their affective feature or the emotional aspect might interfere in their comprehension, either from listening or reading. Yeah. But we'll try to get to cater for those as well. Okay, let's get started. Here's 5 statements. That's the first one. But here are some 5 statements that I collected from people asking them about how they use the authentic materials in classroom and their beliefs related to authentic materials. Yeah? So, I've heard it's more interesting to watch a scene from a film than to listen to a recording from a course book. This is a belief that is quite common there, and we might or might not challenge today. My students can't cope with real articles. Students should be exposed to native speakers speaking English. It's important to have students deal with real-life English. Texts from books are usually boring. Sorry. You must have Not your course. Do they reflect your own beliefs somehow? Remember, this is a workshop, so what do we expect you to do now? Talk to the person next to you. Do they reflect your beliefs? Thank you guys. By now you have probably managed to go halfway through the first. Just so you know, I kind of disagree with all of them, apart from two. Yeah, but that's my personal view. Is there, so basically to do with everything that's there. Is there anything that you particularly disagree with?
We were saying that we disagree with number 3 because almost like he said in the speaker, like we put the schwa in the pedestal, we tend to put native speakers in the pedestal, so we consider that anything they say, whatever they say, it's okay because they're native speakers. And
Yeah.
that's not true, so we should expose them to speakers.
I think, should we expose them to native speakers? Yes, definitely.
Not only that.
Not only, but also, right? So, especially if you're talking about authentic communication, a lot of research shows that a lot of the communication that happens in English, most of the communication that happens in English, is our students are probably going to be talking to Argentinians, Russians, German people who speak English, or even people who were born in English-speaking countries but do not have English as their first language. Any other point here you'd like to mention?
I think that number 1, I don't think boring is the word. I think it's not like updated. I was teaching a class of teenagers, and the article was about share, which I love. But all of my students who were looking was like, who? And I'm like, share, and then just like, and then I showed a picture. I showed a piece of the song, and they were just looking at me like, what? How is this lady? I'm like, how is that? It's a thing that they don't know. It's not like updated enough. So if we were, for example, Shawn Mendes that the door, it's not pretty boring. It's pretty not
And that's why we are there, right? Because sometimes we don't get to choose the course books, and sometimes we end up using course books that are a little bit, that have been there for a while, right? And that's our role as a teacher, to get that text on share that they never heard, and say, okay, so let's read this information. Which current artist would you say that is more similar to her in terms of trajectory, for example? Yeah. So some adaptation is required sometimes.
Something that some of my students usually say is that, teacher, why can't I understand the textbook? I mean, the audio and everything, but I can't understand when I'm watching Netflix, for example. So yeah, I agree here, it's not like boring the word, but they feel, because of course, a coursework is adapted for students, right? So I think even basic students, they feel it.
They realize, right?
Yes.
And they understand the teachers as well.
Yeah.
So we're very good at adapting our own language. But that's an excellent point you're making, and that's exactly what I want us to notice now. So I'm going to give you 2 very brief tasks, right? Can you just turn these up the 3 of you?
Yes.
And then the 3 of you over there. Introduce yourselves, tell them who you are.
Yes.
Good morning.
Nice to meet you.
And now the tricky part. Decide who's A, who's B, and who's C.
That's wonderful.
In your group, who's A, who's B, and who's C.
So,
Do you have an A, a B, and a C in your group? Do you guys have an A, a B, and a C? Great. So A's, I want you to tell your partners about something you've learned. Anything you've learned in life. From cooking to breaking hearts, anything you've learned on the
do well.
Yeah, okay. Not necessarily well. It's not even instruction, so something good. B, I want you to ask questions about it. C, sorry, you're just going to pay attention. You're just going to listen. And I want you to, you don't have to write down if you don't want to, but I want you to pay attention to what structures are being used, what language is being used, what kind of vocabulary is being used. Is that right? Okay. Can I give you 45 seconds to do that?
No, I go to because I didn't have
I think it's enough for us to get a sample. I think it's enough for us to get a sample, right? Because C, who are the C's in the group? Yeah? So now can you tell me please, immediately how many verb tenses they use, vertical occasions, frequent or infrequent, you can check the purpose of it. A and B will have another goal, alright? And C's, I want you to pay attention again because you will be the ones telling us the differences. Yeah? A and B, just practice the dialogue, please.
As if we were students or as teachers.
Practice the dialogue.
Thank you.
Alright, I think we all managed to form a dialogue now, right? Is this type of activity, reading out from a dialogue and practicing the dialogue, something that is common in the classroom? Now, C's, was there a difference? What's the way? What was different?
Well, it was definitely much more natural, right? Most of the speech was improvised. We were not like reading, so it was pretty natural, and the reactions were more natural. They were, oh, really? Also, tell me more about it. So
It wasn't scripted.
yes, definitely.
Sorry. Which one was more accurate? Oh, okay. This one or the other one? Not accurate in terms of you use wrong language, but I mean, in the first conversation, did people start sentences and not finish?
Yeah.
Did people hesitate?
Yes.
What about in this one? So by natural, you mean imperfect?
Yes.
I love that concept. Yeah, that natural. When it's too perfect, it just doesn't work for us, does it? It just doesn't sound genuine, really. Any other differences?
I think something that I could notice is the use of fillers, right? Because they were hesitating when they were talking. And also the number of details that they could give while they were talking. Yes, because specific things and show emotions. And how I can call it about blurry something.
It's also something about intonation. I think that if we are reading something, we have a proper intonation we use beyond reading, which is the intonation you see at TED Talks. And it says simply something's being read. And I mean, in the dialogue we have here, we have a range of different grammatical structures, right?
Yeah.
But probably the range was even richer and wider in the authentic conversation. So you might end up using present to describe the past, present tenses to describe the past, and all of that. It's more language, much more unpredictable.
And that's so contrived, is in line 4 in particular doesn't ring true at all. If you started singing today, you would be able to sing in no time.
Don't worry, Peggy Sue. If start singing today, you're singing. It does sound like a 50s commercial. Yeah. My theology, of course. All right. Why? Because there are two definitions we need to think about to organize our minds for the remainder of the session. What is authentic language and what is authentic materials in the logo of what is ELT. So let's stop for a commercial break. See, that's called subliminal message, you know? You're just leading people to your blog. It's subliminal. But anyway, the concept of authentic language and authentic material is super important, right? So, what is authentic language?
Everyday one.
Anything that's not pre-recorded.
Anything that's not
Pre-recorded.
No, the authentic.
Should we name though?
Is the one that comes from your heart, right?
Express yourself.
It comes naturally.
Expresses yourself. Right?
Mm-hmm. With all the imperfections we all have,
Yes.
with all the hesitations we all have, with all the mistakes, why not? We all make issues. And what is authentic material then? Because what comes from the other, really? Specifically edited for something that needs attention to the language, which also is one example. It's a material that's made for an English, not an English speaking, but an English understanding audience. Yeah? Mind you, it's not something that's done for native speakers of English. Anything that's done in English for people who communicate in English somehow. So, or if we get this recording and use this in a lesson, that's authentic material. Yeah? Because it's authentic language coming from authentic communication. So yes, that Russian guy with a very strong accent in his YouTube video talking about drones, that's authentic material. Yeah, and it's authentic material that can be very rich for our learners because that's most likely the YouTube videos that they're going to need to watch when they're trying to buy their drone.
Yeah.
So can we agree on that?
Yeah.
Authentic material, anything done not for the purpose of teaching, but for the purpose of communicating and communicating something, be it from films to blogs, right? And authentic language, the language that appears there, not scripted, but careful, because films are scripted, aren't they? If you think of films and TV series, there's a script people read.
That's true.
So, is that authentic material? In your opinion?
Yeah.
It's done in a way that sounds natural,
Yeah.
it's the word real life, so.
Well, the back one's gone, but. I agree with you. And not just, the language sounds a little more natural because of all the investment in making it more natural and involved, but it's also the natural language we get contact with. Yeah?
And it also has to do with purpose, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because when it comes to purpose, it's not made for a learner to learn a specific language. So it's made to entertain, so because of that.
Fantastic. So the purpose is not pedagogical or anthropological. It's the purpose is to entertain, amuse, etc. Yeah?
It's a form of art as well.
Oh,
It's a
yes.
form of art for anyone who understands that language.
And films are not very likely to have the 200 occurrences of the if clause that you have to make sure the students grasp it, right? That if any of you have tried to work with songs or to sing some films, it ends up being, oh, there's one phrase there in that scene. That's my target language. But we'll get back to this later on. Great. So I promise to give you some data from research because you cannot just trust me. You have to trust people who have done some serious work on it. And Peacock had developed this research, and I'm misspelled his name, sorry, it's not one of the case. And he was looking at a group of Korean learners using authentic materials and using materials that are not authentic and comparing how they behave, right? And then he nicely put it all into graphs for us to understand. So on-task behavior, and by on-task behavior, I mean how long students remain on task dealing with that material. So give you a course book with pedagogical text, newspaper with the authentic text, and see how long students kept on reading before they finished teacher, or before they got demotivated. Yeah? So here are his conclusions. Authentic material is the dotted line, and artificial or pedagogical material, that he called artificial material, is the other one. So as you can see, I mean, earlier on in the initial context, right? He was doing the research with days, so he was doing consistently. So in the first days, okay, one went up, one went down, but the average here is the same. So as the course reaches halfway point and towards the end of the course, the students dealing with authentic materials ended up managing to remain more time on task, even though in the beginning it was a little bit the same. Yeah. Another aspect to look was the overall motivation, and they see that achieved by actually interviewing students and asking them. Yeah. And we kind of see a similar picture in the initial days of the course, a little bit more equivalent, more towards the end of the course. The authentic materials kept students more motivated. And finding students' opinion, what do they think? Do you like the material you're using? Damn! I'm so into authentic material! You know, I was here building a beautiful case that authentic materials are so much better. Then when it comes to what students think of the materials, his research is inconclusive. Actually, in early days of the course, the students working with pedagogical text liked it more, and towards the end, it kind of evened out. What conclusion can you draw from this?
It really is like a profile of the student that eventually feels that he's learning language because he's using specific material rather than just going there to listen to music.
Yeah?
Well, in the beginning, it's easier to use a course book.
I think this explains this job here.
Yeah, in the beginning, it's easier.
It takes a while for the students dealing with authentic materials to develop the strategies they need to cope with the tasks. Yeah.
And I think, for example, if you're dealing with articles where students have to read, they have the idea that in order to understand a text, you have to know each word, you know?
Yeah.
So they usually feel that, oh, they want to do this, that, what's the meaning of this, so they struggle because
So it's kind of hard.
Yes.
It's hard
Yeah.
to work with authentic materials at first, right? But I apologize if I missed something. What kind of questions were asked to students at this point? They were open questions. They were interviews. Yeah, well, what kind of questions were asked during the interviews? What were you exactly what did you think? What kind of questions were students asked? It was something, I don't remember the exact word, but it was along the lines, or did you like the material? What did you think of the material questions?
The research is from 1997.
Yes.
Maybe if the research had been done today, the expectations would be different. Because in my time as a learner, I won't tell you again. Those books were black and white, and we had no access to authentic materials because it was back then. So I love having my course books as a teenager. I mean, and then nowadays I think everyone has access to everything, including students. So expectations are different.
Definitely. So here is your challenge. So for the remaining of the course, we're going to devise the questions that we're going to ask in our updated research. But that's an excellent point. I think nowadays we are way more exposed to authentic materials. As teachers, we don't even need to look for them. Students come up with them, right? Back in our days, it was just the song that we had recorded in our cassette. Because we were vintage.
Yeah, that was also music too.
Yeah, so this is a very interesting point, but these expectations today might be a little bit different. But regardless, the fact that development strategies is important and that authentic materials might make students uncomfortable at first.
Yes.
but I can, I have the research. If you want to, you can, I can talk about it. Yeah.
And something that I think as well is depending on the student's age as well, depending on how old they are. Because teenagers, for example, they deal much better with authentic materials. Nowadays we are a Netflix generation, right? So most teenagers, yeah, teenagers and younger learners, they tend to deal better with movies and sometimes books.
It's less anxious.
Exactly. Because it's part of their daily life.
Yeah, the research is going on with adults.
Yeah.
All right. So, from the analysis from the research, this is something that we can check whether it's still valid or not. When it comes to adaptive materials and authentic materials, here are some conclusions. Adaptive materials, they help students focus on the language. No, seriously, because I'm sick of going to conferences and the teacher's always looking. But that's very important, okay, guys? We tend to over-glamorize authentic materials and we forget the use that the course book has and that the adaptive material has of helping students focus on the language we're dealing with. Thank you. They also provide us with many instances of the target language. So let's say if you use an approach to teaching that involves students analyzing the language in context and inferring the grammar rules, having many instances there is important. Yeah, they are sometimes boring, but isn't everything. Well, the books are updated, nobody wants to talk about share. Yeah, but if you get tremendous, in the first lesson you're going to teach, there will be half of the room that say, oh, I hate Sean. The usefulness of the material go beyond the superficial interest it generates, right? Because we are the key, and we can be the key players in that. Yeah. We can get the very boring, insert your favorite text, course book here, and sell it in a way that makes it relevant. Yeah? And they do promote a sense of achievement, and this is something that came from pedagogical research, right? I mean, yeah, I succeeded. I was able to accomplish the tasks. On the other hand, the authentic material, they help students focus on the skill, so it's helping them develop listening so they can listen in so they can listen in real life context, right? Because people don't talk like the course books necessarily. It contains unpredictable language, so opportunity for those, teacher, what's this? For the emergent language to appear are in theory richer, but it can also be frustrating for students. Especially if you get your elementary learners. Okay, I found this very interesting TED Talk. Without any preparation. Yeah. That's kind of hard, right? So you have to thoroughly prepare students for that. But the argument is it prepares them for real life, at least to the type of language they will encounter, not necessarily to learn the language that they will encounter in real life. Those are different things. Yeah? Great. So let's look at some practical examples. And now this is something that I'm not very sure about. You might flop, okay? You might flop, but I don't care. But I need to know one thing first. How many of you are C2 level in French? How many of you speak any French at all? Good. Good, because I don't. Because I don't, and I'm going to need your help, all right? But tell me, what TV shows do you enjoy watching normally? RuPaul's Drag Race? Yeah, that's fun. It's French.
I've been watching Orphan Black.
All right. So we're talking about reality competition and TV drama, classical mystery clone drama.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
Supernatural.
Yeah, Supernatural. Would you say that Supernatural is the same type of TV show as Orphan Black? Kind
Never
of.
watched that one.
They were run for the same aims. Yeah, like feature drama or whatever. Yeah. But it's a different genre, isn't
It
it?
is, it is. So yeah, their age is more with spirits and demons, and yeah, this is something more like sci-fi.
Yeah. Now, I want you to tell me what kind of TV show the one I'm going to show you is. Yeah?
Again?
What makes you think it's a game show or a quiz show? Different participants. Lots of participants. Do you know this show? Do you know what show it is?
Jeopardy?
No.
It's in French, right?
The Weakest Link is the French, it's the French version of the Weakest Link. Yeah? So basically, it's a quiz show. They ask questions and you have to get the answers right. Yeah? So those of you who, like me, don't understand any French, now here comes the challenge. I'm going to show you a part of the show, all right? And I want you to tell me what kind of information people were giving. Yeah? Are they answering questions about geography? Are they saying what they hate about each other? Very general. Okay? Are you going to understand the words?
Probably not.
Probably not.
There are lots of continents, right? So maybe.
Yeah, maybe some words are there, maybe you might recognize something as a number or something as the name of a TV show that's in a language you speak. Yeah, let's see how it goes.
Sure.
And I think I'm going to have to wait.
Bonsoir, Angélique, chanteuse et également votre service de l'association PETA qui lutte contre la maltraitance des animaux. Et ce soir, j'espère qu'on va gagner beaucoup d'argent pour cette association. Bonsoir, Talia, animatrice. J'espère que nous allons remporter le maximum d'argent pour l'association PETA. Bonsoir, Céline, 25 ans, animatrice télé et comédienne. Ça me fait très plaisir d'apprécier pour aider l'association. Bonsoir, Maëva, 24 décédée. Je préfère coucher avec les humains que de porter de la douleur.
All right, let's stop torturing ourselves here. Is it? I don't know why I can't turn it up. Yeah. But I'm going to ask you a different question that I didn't ask you. Is this the beginning, the middle, or the end? Beginning. What makes you think that's the beginning?
She repeats the name that it's in the tag.
Do people say their names at the end of quiz shows?
No.
Did you mention that topics that we're talking about?
So
Names or admission names?
And it's the sexy girls special, whatever. it is.
Exactly! It's the
Sexy
girls edition.
Whatever this is.
Things you see on TV. Anything else?
My question is, did you mention where they work, or is that like what they do?
Yeah,
I asked somebody, and they told me that this is a charity edition. And they mention institutions to which they're going to donate.
I don't know.
So Bakshan was okay. And most of them are donating to PETA. You know what PETA is?
For animals.
Yeah, PETA, yes, for the animal welfare. So no fur for these ladies. Let me see if I can just increase the volume here, guys, because we're gonna make it harder. No, it's already full blast. We're going to listen again, right? And this time I want us to hear the names and here are some of the information they give. Is it natural to give age and profession or I'm going to embarrass myself. Âge de profession. Is it frequent for people to say this when introducing themselves? Okay. So these are the things they mentioned, right? And you guys know how to say all the professions in English. So I'll give you options, all right? The professions they mentioned are animatrice télé, which is the same thing. Comédienne. Any idea how to pronounce this? Chanteuse again.
Présentatrice télé.
Présentatrice télé. It just sounds so fancy.
Comédienne.
Comédienne. Okay, what does that mean?
So they are TV hostess. Yes, they are
Yeah.
comedian.
That's the animatrice.
Animatrice. Présentatrice télé.
But I was told that there's a difference.
Yeah.
That the presentatrice is a little bit more serious and respected.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
And the animatrice
Like
is...
Shusha, right? Animatrice télé is like Shusha or something, no?
Yeah, it's something like presentatrice. So presentatrice, yeah. And Fatima Bernard is opera is a presentatrice. Whereas the girls' opera calls will say what the products are, they are animatrices.
Yeah.
Singer.
Singer.
But I'm also asking you to pay attention to the page, right? So repeat after me. Croissant. Do you notice the linking of the sounds? Croissant. It's called liaison. And remember, the phrase you don't pronounce anything. So 23 ans. 25 ans. 26 ans. See? That lesson I had. So what do you say that again? 26 ans. Animatrice télé, comédienne, chanteuse, présentatrice télé, comédienne. Great. So your task is very simple. You have to tell me, Evangelise, she doesn't mention her age. What's her profession? Yeah. Can we break it down so we don't panic? Can you guys here focus on the age? Can you guys focus on the profession? So let's.
Bonsoir, Angélie, chanteuse et également ambassadrice de l'association PETA qui lutte contre la maltraitance des animaux. Et ce soir, j'espère qu'on va gagner beaucoup d'argent pour cette association. Bonsoir, Talia, animatrice. J'espère que nous allons remporter le maximum d'argent pour l'association PETA. Bonsoir, Céline, 25 ans, animatrice télé comédienne. Ça me fait très plaisir d'être ici pour aider l'association. Bonsoir, Maëva, présentatrice télé. Je préfère coucher avec les animaux que de porter de la toile. Bonsoir, Elodie, ravie et fière d'être un maillon de cette chaîne de solidarité féminine, en espérant remporter un maximum pour l'association PETA. Bonsoir, Francesca, 25 ans, animatrice télé, chanteuse. Je fais partie de la qui s'appelle La Routine, mais aujourd'hui, pas de routine, on va péter la parole pour l'association PETA. Bonsoir, Mélanie, 25 ans, je suis heureuse d'être sur le même thème pour l'association PETA. Bonsoir, Marjolaine, 26 ans, comédienne. Je suis ravie d'être dans le spécial Jolie Fille de l'association. Bonsoir, Chanel, 23 ans. Alors là, on est là ce soir pour essayer de remporter un maximum d'argent pour l'association PETA.
The last one, I don't get. I don't understand what did you manage to? So, but I don't know the answer, so we don't need to check it, all right? But what I want us to do is be in the position of the student who doesn't speak the language, trying to understand. talk to the person next to you 1 minute. What was hard? What was difficult? What was easy? What helped? What didn't? Because what I did was pretty much standard teaching procedures. Pre-listening, activating schemata, pre-teaching vocabulary, listening for gist, listening for specific information.
Yeah.
How did it feel?
You have pretty much
Did some of them feel that it was too much, even with the whole preparation?
Was it?
Did some of you feel that, wow, the preparation was actually helpful? Did some of you do it very easily? No, not because of the speak French.
Yeah.
No, but it's fine. The problem is not French.
Yeah, I would say how you're feeling, yeah.
It's the end, yeah. Is that what happens in the classroom? Sure. So whenever we use authentic materials, there are things we should take into consideration, right? According to Hamlet, the things we should take into consideration are the language content, what systems are used in the text, and what skills students need to do it. Do they need to understand the specific information? Do they need to understand the general information? Do they have to infer meaning? Any other content? Especially cultural content, like knowing what type of material you're exposing, that's cultural. Yeah. So the preparation, what do you need to prepare? You need to know, in this case, I came to the conclusion that you needed to know the task, the professions, the age, yeah, how to pronounce it, recognize the sounds. So just the written form wouldn't be enough.
No.
The steps you're going to implement, and then the pre-while post is one of the many options. The instructions, what you should consider when delivering the instructions, and also how you should organize the activity. Yeah? Do you feel that this is useful for a teacher to have when planning a lesson? Okay. Especially the questions, right? Asking ourselves that question. And here are some authentic material pieces that are very frequent. Okay, raise your hand if you have already used friends in a lesson. Now raise your hand if you have used the lesson with elementary learners, A1 learners. Yes, I have, so I've used this video, this clip here.
That's perfect. It's just perfect.
Could this be used with an A1?
That's
And it's exactly the language that we use in course books that we say, oh, hey, that's how I used in real life. It actually is, right? And there is even the repetition. Now that's Joey, that's Chandler, in very natural way, natural intonation, real life situation. Now, how empowered do you feel an A1 learner would feel if he managed to Yeah. So selecting the piece of authentic material is super important. Another thing I love are classified ads for this reason. Look, it's authentic material and it's all wrong. It's full of mistakes. You can just go and say, well, there's no punctuation at all. Work together to put punctuation in the appropriate place. Because that's very important, right? Authentic material doesn't mean that it's accurate. And helping learners navigate through inaccurate or materials that do not follow the standard is super important because they will need to, well, maybe not classify ads because I'm a bit old-fashioned, but they're going to navigate through these websites. They're going to go to Amazon.com to buy the best academic phrasebook you ever need by this there. They are going to try to rent a room in Airbnb. They're going to check the lives of the celebrities on IMDb and decide on what to do based on reviews given by native speakers of the language, non-native speakers of the language in English. Yeah? So here's just a thought for us. Authentic materials can be used by students at very lower levels. However, if the tasks that go with it are well designed and help students understand it better, rather than showing how little they know yet. And this here, I think this is probably our biggest role as teachers, to empower students, to help students see how much, not how little they know. All right? Here are the references. And I'm going to go back to it in a minute, because here are also the 100 gazillion ways in which you can contact either through Cultura Inglesa or for Cultura Inglesa purposes and for what is ELT purposes. Stay in touch. Don't forget to subscribe and like the channel. If you like the workshop. Oh no, you don't forget to subscribe really. Because there will be people watching on YouTube, yeah? So we have to send the message anyway. There's more. You see, I left a card for you guys there. Is there a star on your card?
No.
Star.
Yes. Did I draw a star on your card? No. So, well, there are some cards for grab around.
No star.
I have a star.
Yes. Oh, you're already So, for those of you who have the star, I mean, token of appreciation, soon available. I star. You. I got one more star. All right, guys. Thank you very much for coming. See you guys around and later on for the pedagogical show.
No.